Well, you're going to see a lot of the action that you've come to expect from the franchise, but I think you're also going to see John digging deeper into his character, and I think it's going to be really fulfilling for a lot of Clancy fans. Locations in Moscow, they shot in London, they shot in New York and DC, and of course we spent a lot of time in Colombia, which doubles for Venezuela. So it was a global story. It's a lot of fun to get to go all over the place working on it.
For me, it was a great opportunity to be in the show and to work with this amazing casting and 3 talented directors. Also working in English, it was hard for me and a new challenge. But I'm very happy and excited to see the show on a big screen. My character is Gloria Bonalde. Is an amazing character because she's a family woman and she's not very interested in politics until her husband was kidnapped. And from that point on, she's around finding justice and finding justice for her people, for her family, for herself, and she discovers a strong power within herself that she didn't know she had before, so it's very exciting.
It sounds super corny, but if you're a fan of the first one, you're gonna love the second one. Only because I think it's much bigger. It's a little more gritty and a little more hard hitting, and it's a little more fun. I think it's a lot more fun. There are additions to casts, and then there are greatest additions to casts that make the cast what it is. I mean, I think that I don't know what we did without Mike. Michael Kelly is so incredibly talented. Noomi Rapace, so incredibly talented. I mean, these are the 2 people that are at the top of your list as people you should try to get someone like them. You don't think you're ever lucky enough to get the actual person. Jack's relationship with Michael November is he's a station chief who's trying to do it by the book. And he reminds me a lot of how Jack was in the first season. And Jack sort of pushes the envelope and pushes the limits and brings Mike into his web of sort of complications and theories and trouble. Well, it's interesting. I think one of my favorite parts about the season was getting to play a character who came through a huge learning curve in the first season. So I think I was initially, Jack's character is a fish out of water guy who just really wants to hand off all the documents and not deal with any of the actual action. And then, of course, he is brought into the action, which makes him open his eyes to the sort of moral ambiguity in the world. And so I think coming into season 2, he's aware of that moral ambiguity and willing to compromise his own morality in season 2, which I think is really fun to play.
I mean, I think for the fans, it's more of the same, completely different. I think that you're going to have all that action and drama and character development, but it's completely different because, again, as in the world of Jack Ryan, it takes you to all these different places. So it's a whole nother crazy story that just goes off on a whole nother wild ride that the audience, I think that's what they dug so much about season 1. I think they'll equally love about season 2. They sent me those scripts while I was still doing House of Cards, and they sent me the pilot, and then I was just like, oh man, and I had met John before. It was a no-brainer, man. When I watched that pilot of season 1, I was just like, it's like a movie. And then the way we went and shot season 2, they shot the whole thing like a movie, the way they did the first season, and it was an incredible experience to do television on such a cinematic scale. It's fascinating too to film it as an actor on a series. It's different because, like I said, it's more like a film, so we know what's happening in those 8 episodes, but we really truly filmed it like a movie where everything was out of, you might be doing a scene from the 4th episode and a scene from the 7th episode and working with 2 different directors in one day. It was a wild ride. You had to know the whole story from start to finish on day 1.
The first season was like one big film, and this is another one. So it's like they're not really linked, and it's like new characters, and it's big, cinematic, beautiful, and quite like a lot of twists and turns. Her name is Harry. She's a spy. She's like German, Spanish. We don't really know. Basically, she and Jack meets in Venezuela. She's on a mission. She's kind of, you don't really know what side she's on. She's on a very personal journey, trying to find someone, and that's where they meet. And then she comes to a point in her life when she needs to make up her mind what side she's playing. So she goes through a big.
My character is a ex-BND, that's German Secret Service agent who at some point decided to work on his own account, yeah, we'll see how that goes. It's a great genre mix. It's action, it's drama. There's comic relief. There's so many things, and what I particularly like is that all the characters are kind of multi-layered, so that there isn't like protagonist, antagonist, but like everybody's got a backstory.